So you want to know the things no one tells you about studying in the Netherlands. Okay, here we go. You're welcome. First, studying in the Netherlands really changes you, fundamentally. But I think that can be said about everything. When I first moved here, I was a bit sheltered, a bit unaware of what it's like to be a professional out in the world. But then again, I was 18. What the hell did I know at the time? I really didn't know what was important to me, what I liked, what drove me on the inside. All I knew was that I liked telling stories. I always thought I was gonna be a writer, a journalist, working for something like Vogue, or Cosmo, or I don't know, GQ, even National Geographic. I always thought writing is where I want to be, writing about lifestyle, maybe nature, but then nature was like, oh no, I'm handicapped, how the f am I gonna get that shot of that monkey or that thing? So I figured, yeah, cozy, nice desk job, maybe working for BuzzFeed, making cool videos or writing a cool article. And what do you study if you want to study that? Media, sure, media, whatever. And then I was like, yeah, cool. I came across this study after I had been looking. I applied. It seemed like a cool international vibe where everyone was super open-minded and welcome. Did I think I was gonna start a company at the time? No. Did I think I'd be anywhere I am today? No. Came into that, started learning, bumped my head quite a few times. But somehow throughout the journey, you learn a lot, you grow up. My perspective of what media actually means has changed because I've learned a lot about it. My perspective of what being an adult means has changed. My perspective of being a professional has changed. And really, media has become a space where I've explored my passions. And I realized, yes, I used to think studying was a good thing, but I never really loved it. In media studies, I became a nerd because I loved what I studied. I loved every theory, and I loved learning about these different researchers, like, I don't know, Foucault, for example, who really studies power and the impact of media and power on people. Or Henry Jenkins, who focuses on fandoms. Or, I don't know, Fordism and the idea of McDonaldization, the rise of the standardized approach in capitalism. And I'll be happy to link a few sources down there about that stuff if you guys are interested in that. So on the one hand, it really stimulated my brain side. On the other hand, it really sort of gave me a shock because it faced me with what I needed to do in life and who I wanted to be. Dealing with the fact that I couldn't get any internships pushed me to become an entrepreneur, which I think was one of the best decisions that ever happened to me. I realized I had my own story to tell and I was ready to make impact. And my university has been nothing but supportive of my impact and my stories and my importance. Now, focusing into media again, learning in my master's, combining approaches of change management, systemic thinking, and leadership with media approaches, and how that is at the forefront of our industry, and how media is really on the cutting edge of technology with all kinds of new platforms coming in, with the evolution from passive to more active audiences and the blurring role of audience producers through content creators like myself, through authors of fan fiction and stories, and through admins of fan clubs and fan groups and communities that are building around all of these different stories that are being fed to us in the great media cycle. Every narrative out in the world when it comes to media is imbued with the context of its creator, with the ideas of the creators behind it. That's why when you give power to people of color, to handicapped people, to all of us that stand outside of what is considered traditionally normal, you get all kinds of enriched stories because they're imbued with their perspectives. At least that's the perspective of Stuart Hall, if I'm not wrong, who talks about the ideas of encoding and decoding, putting content and ideas into what you say, what you create, and then that being interpreted by your audience. So that's just a bit of a glimpse of the shifts that happens within people when they study media. At least the way I studied it, very theory heavy. I'll link a couple of those articles below if anyone's interested. So yeah, that's a bit of a basic shift of how that changes you. Moving on from there, uni here is quite hard. It's quite messy, it's quite complicated, and if you're studying particularly at university level, not at University of Applied Science, not at what is called a HBO, and I think I referred to that table in one of my videos, We'll put it back up here again. University here is quite a dense endeavor because it's very academically driven. I had to read around 2 to 3 30-page articles per week for every course I did. For your master's, that pumps up to 50 to 70, and they're very knowledge dense. They're not easy to swallow, but at least for my study, I took an academic writing course that was mandatory. So they taught you how to tackle those articles, how to write thoughtfully about them. This really teaches you to be a critical thinker and a critical writer, but you need to be ready for that because it can get quite dense. In terms of assignments, I can only speak from my program, at least the one that I finished, IPCOM. Master's, the jury's still out because I'm figuring it out. In terms of assignments, a lot of them are traditional papers. Some are a bit more creative depending on the professor, but be prepared to understand and tackle modern cutting edge theory. Because really, in a program that's 10 years old, you really still get things that are very new. Well, especially in the media field, because our professors try to stay on the edge of things. So right where innovation continues, programs are being updated every year, being changed, being adapted slightly with new knowledge that might be as interesting or as relevant or even more relevant today. Just be prepared, especially at Erasmus. Can't speak for UvA, but I do know some friends that are at UvA meaning University of Amsterdam. I think a lot of it is quite theory heavy, quite knowledge heavy, so that sort of hits you on the head. But if you're okay with that, if that's the kind of thing you do, you like reading, you like learning, you like gaining new paradigms and concepts, then this is the most crucial way to do it, in my opinion. I've really grown from the knowledge, and I hope you can grow too. Another thing that no one tells you about, and probably my most important point that I'm going to mention today, everything at university is a networking opportunity. You're meeting industry people. You're meeting, if you're lucky, your professors are industry people. If not, for almost every study I've heard of, a professional from the industry comes in at some point. That's your opportunity to make that connection. Those communities in every study, for us, we had our own student society, for example, called ACE, that does specific career events for us, but I'm sure whichever university you end up in will have an equivalent of a career fair where you get to meet people. Never skip out on those. You never know who you might meet. Dress your best. Remember all the things you learned. Share insight. Be open. Be positive. Share about yourself. Market yourself. It sounds cheesy, and I sound like one of those pro-capitalism cuckoo coaches on TikTok being like, you need to market yourself to get opportunities, but it's true. It's about who you know. It's about the value you can provide. And as long as that grows and changes, you'll be fine. But be ready. If you're an introvert, I can imagine that can be pretty hard for you. But just every once in a while, at least once a year, go to those events, meet those people, build those connections so that they'll remember you. And then when it comes to time to make those applications, go for it and have that contact there. Have that contact at Vice if you want to work there. Have that contact at, I don't know, BuzzFeed or Unilever. For example, Unilever feels like a crowd favorite at my study because they worked a lot with our university. Stuff like that. Keep that sort of in your head. Who do I want to work with? Who do I want to work for? What I want in my life? And reach out, say hello, don't be scared. Everyone, in my experience, is more than happy to at least talk to you. Do they have the power to help you, or do they want to? Do they have the time? Maybe not, but they'll at least have a call with you. Pick their brain, be curious, be yourself. Try your hardest to connect to people, and believe me, it'll pay off. Another thing that no one really tells you about is how lonely it can get. Yes, you make a lot of friends. Yes, you connect to a lot of people. But if you're here as an international, for the first time, away from your family, I'm lucky enough to have my mom. But I've had friends who have fallen into the monster of depression and had really difficult first years because everyone felt alone. You're suddenly shouldered with this responsibility of being an adult. The complexity of the practical systems here, of registering yourself, dealing with the immigration and naturalization department, all of that, despite the fact that it is as clear and as clean as can be, can still be very daunting to someone who's not used to those systems, particularly speaking from the perspective of someone who comes from the Middle East, from a very semi-privileged background. It can get daunting, but I was lucky enough to have my mom, and just for that I say, keep your loved ones close, talk to them a lot, don't forget them, and never, and I mean ever, skip out on those introduction events, because those are really where you make good friends, where you laugh with people, where you have fun, where you make memories, because those memories are what you're gonna remember. I'd also say, if you can, and I hope you will, take up an activity or a hobby or a different interest. Your study can risk overwhelming your brain. So if you like making videos like me, start your own channel. If you like playing piano, play some piano. I don't know. If you're someone who likes programming, some people are really ticked by how a computer works, do that. Yes, it can be good to hang out with friends sometimes, or like watch a TV show or read a book. Yes, those are great activities, but also have something that sustains you, connects you, expands your perspective. Read up on a different form of theory if you like that, or practice that activity to sort of make you more well-rounded. And last but not least, I guess one final tip of advice that I can offer here: don't forget your health. Your health is very important. It's really worth taking care of yourself. Eat good. Don't fall to what's called the freshman 15 at American universities. The gaining the weight because you can lose it later. Take up some activity. It doesn't have to be too much, not like telling you to stay shredded or whatever, but I don't know, go to a gym if you can, maybe once or twice a week, or swim or run. Just, one activity to sustain you mentally, an interest, piano, making videos, writing if that's for you. One activity to keep you healthy, swimming, archery, whatever suits you. And with that, have some fun, because if you don't take care of your study and balance all of that out with your study, your brain's gonna get consumed and you're gonna hate life. And we wouldn't want you to get there. I've fallen down that hole, and it's not a fun hole to fall on. So yeah, these are my tips for today. I hope you like it. If that's something for you, please like, subscribe, say hello then in the comments. And if you're ever feeling down or want to learn more, send me an email or leave me a comment. I can try to answer a question.